and welcome back to another episode with Outlier Detected. I'm Shumail Sajjad, currently pursuing my master's in data science, and today I have a very special guest with me. Jannik did his master's in data science from Columbia Engineering as well. He graduated in December 2022 and is working for McKinsey as a data scientist at Quantum Black. Jannik, first of all, it's a privilege to have you with us. Thank you very much for taking out the time.
Thank you for
And
having
welcome
me.
back to DSISC.
I'm glad to be back here. It's been a while, but it's a great place.
Yeah. So you did your undergraduate in Technical University of Munich.
Yep.
You did a minor in computer science, and then you came to New York City to pursue masters in data science. Just let us know, after completing your bachelor's, what was the point of time when you decided you will be doing masters in data science?
So I finished my undergrad in June 21 and then started my master's here in September 21. Yeah, honestly, the decision to study data science came about a year earlier. Okay. Where I effectively realized so I did my minor in computer science, right? And so I really enjoyed that part, and I really enjoyed the software aspect of it, being able to kind of apply the things I learned in university by myself. And then at that point, I kind of looked into what specializations or fields in computer science and engineering I was most interested in. Because I still had that business influence, and through some of the internships that I had done before, I really enjoyed working with data. At that point, mostly Excel sheets and so on. But I wanted to really dive deeper and follow a more technical approach. And so that's why I leaned towards data science. And then also the field of artificial intelligence was very exciting to me. And I figured that studying data science would be the best way to focus on that in my studies.
Right. And you did a minor in computer science during your undergraduate. Was that point of time where you thought that the field of AI or computer science is booming? Was that the point of time where you realized?
Yeah, I would say that I found interest before my studies. That's why I chose the minor. So in Germany, you choose your major and minor, or just a major right in the beginning, right? Like you don't have that exploratory phase like you might have in the US. And so I really knew that I still wanted to have some computer science aspect. And then, yes, throughout my studies, I was more and more like, okay, the technical projects are the super exciting ones, right? You can do them with your own laptop, but they can become huge, and all these startups and software companies and people building their own ideas, and that's what I found really exciting. So I gravitated more and more towards that.
Okay. Now let's just jump into your experience with the data science at Columbia. You worked as a graduate student researcher for a semester, and you were doing a capstone project with JP Morgan and Chase. When did you find the need to pursue research during your program? Was it something you always wanted to do? And how did it shape you in terms of finding internships and job opportunities afterwards?
Right. So with research, I thought after I did my undergrad, I had done a lot of things on the side of my undergrad, but I figured, okay, if I do a master's, this will probably be the longest time in my life, even though it sounds crazy to say this, where I will be learning just for like 1.5 years straight, right? Like going to university is purely learning and doing academic work and really diving deep into a topic. And obviously you will learn for the rest of your life, but probably rarely in that capacity where it's just about like actually absorbing knowledge in a very academic way. And so I figured if I'm doing a master's, then I also want to do some academic work and do research and apply my skills that way, because the chances that I'll be doing that in the future will become slimmer and slimmer likely.
Yeah.
Because I went the industry pathway. That project with the biomedical engineering lab, the SEAL lab, was very exciting because I got to work on something where I could clearly see the positive impact of it, right? If you do medical research, you can see like, okay, this will benefit some people. If we can reduce, in this case, the goal was to reduce invasive measurements. So we basically wanted to predict an index that is a predictive factor of cardiac risk. Okay. So predicting that without any invasive measurements, for me it was very clear, okay, like if we can do this non-invasively, we can do it more often, we can do it with more people, and we can bring preventative medicine for cardiac risk forward. And I think that was a great project. I got to apply the things that I'd learned the previous semester and in the current semester even, by using machine learning and some deep learning techniques on a variety of different data types, because there was both some like demographic factors and then also pulse data that has been collected for the people that participate in the study.
Right. Two questions that I want to ask. First of all, how did Columbia, do you think, shape your technical skills? I mean, in research, you got an opportunity to amalgamate whatever you learned and apply those skills. And most importantly, how did you end up getting this opportunity to do research? Doing research in Colombia is a competitive. It's very competitive. A lot of our students, they reach out to professors. Can you just briefly guide what's the right way to approach professor for research work and in general for anything?
So I would say how Columbia shaped my technical skills is massively. I think before that I had some fundamentals in math, statistics, and programming, but I really hadn't ever spent that much time doing exactly those things.
Right.
And so for me, the learning curve in the beginning was super steep. But it was truly fantastic for me to realize that before I felt nervous whenever I'd start a project. I was like really looking for it in a lot of different ways and wasn't always quite sure in figuring out how to do it. And then after my master's, I felt like I'd come such a long way, right? Like in the beginning, I didn't feel comfortable doing a lot of these things. And in the end, I felt comfortable doing these things. I'd completed multiple projects. I kind of was able to associate more actual work with what is deep learning, what is machine learning, what does a data scientist do, and had actually done these things. And a lot of these terms that I'd previously heard now became something, I can kind of demystify it and I can now apply it to by myself. So that was great. And then the other thing, how I got to do research was, like with anything, and I think that's also one of the big challenges, is that you have to talk to a lot of people. You have to reach out to a lot of people. And I knew of a lot of professors that were affiliated with the Data Science Institute, and I think that's one of the great perks. And so I reached out to a couple of them that I found had interesting labs and interesting projects. And then I also regularly reached out to the people who post projects in our newsletters that we got while being an active student, right? So I was in talks with a couple other projects and then finally ended up with this. And I was very happy about it. It was a very cool project. I got to work very independently and I really enjoyed that.
Right. I mean, your experience as a consultant or a data scientist has grown or evolved over time, right? Let us all know, how did you get into McKinsey, and that element of networking which you also speak for research, was that the one deal breaker, or is there more to it?
Yeah, so I think the research part, not necessarily, because I did my internship at McKinsey Quantum Black.
Yeah.
So I basically, this sequence of events was I applied in early 2022, got the internship, and then through the internship got the full-time offer. So, and I think the internship I got through two things. I obviously had to do well in the kind of coding screen and coding interview. And then the other advantage I had, and where that networking maybe came in an earlier stage, was I had worked at McKinsey in Germany. So I knew people at the company who I talked to and said like, hey, I'm now in New York. I think this opportunity is great. I would like to test my technical skills. And so it really helped there, right? Because there are just so many applications for every position these days, because the internet has made it so easy that you really want to have that personal edge. And I was able to use that, and then still had to go through all the interviews, right? Like there's still like 5 interviews that I went through, and had to prove that I had the technical skills, because previously I had worked in a non-technical role during my internship.
Right. McKinsey values in innovation and teamwork a lot. Is that something which you commonly do as well? Is that something which you're part of, or is it your work a bit different? And speaking about teamwork, I mean, you did research work as well here. You've been part of group work as well with the Columbia as well. How did that data science program and the teamwork especially shaped you? Working with the team is not as easy as it looks like.
Yeah, so teamwork is definitely very important. I mean, we work in very small teams that are always focused on one problem that a client has, and I think it really emphasizes how important it is to be able to communicate what you're working on, communicate the results you're getting, because also at McKinsey, you then have to do a lot of translation work, and you have to obviously tell the client, help the client understand what the data science, the work that you're doing means, and what the value is in that. And that, I think, it becomes a very important communication task. And then also with your team, you have to be very closely aligned, because we also work at a pretty high pace. So you always got to make sure, okay, who's working on what, how do the different pieces come together. And I think that's a big challenge that might be a little bit more unique to McKinsey than maybe some other companies.
And what are some of the projects that you're doing right now with McKinsey, or some of the recent projects that you've done?
Yeah, so I'm working a lot of large language model related projects. So we have a lot of clients that are interested in exploring what this new technology means for them. Can't give too many details.
Yeah.
But one thing that is public is, for example, I also worked on Lily, which was McKinsey's internal knowledge assistant. So effectively, McKinsey built a knowledge assistant that helps consultants do their research and explore different industries and topics to reduce the time they spend on that and make them more effective getting knowledge that the company has built up over decades.
Interesting. Jannik, any recommendations for someone who wants to get into McKinsey? For instance, some people may be applying for internships right now.
Yeah.
Any recommendation for those? What sort of elements that they need to have covered before they even join McKinsey?
Yeah. So I think definitely strong technical skills, but I'm pretty sure that everybody who studies here and data science in general will likely have those down and is considering to apply. And then the other thing that I think is overlooked and that is more important at McKinsey than maybe more corporate, bigger, even like huge companies, is the communication aspect. So being able to explain very concisely what it is that the business value of what you're doing, right? Like, it always matters that this project improves the client situation and solves a problem. So being able to communicate that and present that clearly, I think, is a key skill that you should have if you want to join. And that also comes together with, like, I think in the interviews this is tested well through explaining what you've worked on in the past. What did you do? What was the impact of it? How did you measure it? What did you learn from it? And just being very intentional about these things, I think, is how you can stand out during the interviews.
Interesting. So Jannik, you were working as a board member for the DSI Student Council. What sort of role you were working, and you were part of Columbia rock climbing as well? I mean, as a side activity. What was your role as a board member here?
So I would say my main goal was to work with the people that are most engaged in the community, and help that. I think with the DSI, compared to a lot of other study programs, we have a pretty strong community, and also just having this space is fantastic. And so I wanted to be more involved with that and help organize events. And also, I think it's a great platform to invite fellow students, alumni to get together, discuss, just meet each other, maybe make some new friends.
Yeah. And
so my main goal was to just like engage alumni in the active community.
Right. And what are some of the courses that you'll recommend especially for someone who wants to go into consulting or wants to work as a data scientist for McKinsey? What are the courses that you took during your semesters, and you'd also recommend others as well?
Yeah. So besides the core courses, it's like statistics and machine learning, math, and data structures, I mainly wanted to focus on deep learning because I joined the program to focus on artificial intelligence. Deep learning, of course, being the kind of the main form of artificial intelligence in today's age. And so I picked deep learning, and then I picked an advanced deep learning seminar, and then I also took a class on fair algorithms, which was very exciting. And I would say that, yes, you can pick classes to have a specific edge towards a job, but I would say you should pick the class. That's what I followed with. You pick the classes that you're most excited about. Also, I was fully aware that deep learning might not be something that will be an actual task in a lot of different jobs, because it is quite research heavy and not many companies will do that. but I wanted to experience and be able to understand it, and then I could also explain it, at least at that time. And that's why I picked those classes. And I don't think you need to have a specific class, but obviously if you are very sure about which industry, which job you want to go into, you likely are also interested in a class that has a similar content.
Right.
I would think about it like that.
Right. And tell us about the intern level roles in McKinsey and what makes an intern stands out in McKinsey.
Yeah. So I think if you get into the internship, you've already gone through the interviews, so you're probably pretty qualified. You're very qualified for the job. And I think then what stands out is kind of if you can work independently, because everybody works pretty fast, and there are a lot of uncertainties, I'd say, in the job, and kind of the clients, the managers, and so on. They all affect what is going on, and things can change. It is really good if you're self-driven and you can pick a topic and pick a package of work and you're like, I'll do this and work on it independently. Obviously take opinions and knowledge from the people with more experience, but just really drive something yourself and make it happen. I think that is very valued. And if you have that energy, people will make sure that you can also fulfill that and accomplish whatever you want to accomplish.
And since data science is a rapidly changing field, especially with your work in generative AI, there's a lot happening every day. How do you keep track of what's been happening? What are the updates that are happening, even with the new language models that are coming into life?
Yeah, so I would say I consume most of my knowledge and news from, for example, Twitter and LinkedIn, because right there there's I think what's so interesting about large language models as a trend specifically is just how much chatter and opinions are out there about it. And so I feel like on Twitter and on social media in general, you will get the newest opinions, and you'll see what people like and what they don't like, and for what reasons, and you can really engage in the conversation. And then I will stay up to date with, okay, what are they doing? What are the new trends? What do I want to maybe look into? Another venue of that is a bit more direct and personal is inside the company. I'm very active in kind of the group that is interested in actively working on LLMs. And so I think I absorb a lot of knowledge through that. And then lastly, yes, there are also some newsletters that I might browse through, some articles if they catch my eye. And then the last part, which I find the most active, is I have a problem that I need to solve, and then I will look into, okay, what are the potential solutions for that, right? So what are in this case, like coding libraries, or what are the current best practices, and so on. I think broad learning is good to be kind of aware of what is out there, and like if you ever come across a new problem, it's like, oh, I've heard of that. But then if you have a specific problem, you will learn so much deeper because you actually have to apply it, right? If I learn about some new deep learning approach or something, and I'm not actively working on it, I've heard about it, but have I really understood it if I haven't done it myself? Likely less so.
And how's the work-life balance at McKinsey?
So it very depends. There's a wide variety between the different people. I would say I'm actively managing it, and it's going pretty well for me. There is there's some travel involved, even though traveling is definitely less than it was in consulting, for example, a decade ago. But yeah, I would say it's overall good, but definitely slightly longer than some other jobs.
And how do you see, this field of AI and data science changing in the next 5 to 10 years? And where do you see your work going?
5 to 10 years. I think so much can happen in 5 to 10 years, right? There are people who are claiming that we might have artificial general intelligence in the next 5 years. Or some people will say until 2050, some people will say in the next 5 years. And so I won't assume that I can predict the future. I think I'm very excited about it. Obviously there are a lot of worries about job insecurity and so on, but I do think that these technologies are so pervasive, like you can't really stop it. And so trying to stay up to date and trying to stay really on the edge of technology, where you're like, how can I use this? How can I automate more of my work? How can I be more efficient? I think those are very exciting tasks. And I'm just really lucky that I can actively work on that on a day-to-day basis. And I honestly think I have no idea what's happening in 5 years. I hope things will improve, more people can benefit from it, and more people can see the benefits it can have to their job, and we might be able to solve a lot of problems through it. But I also think there are certainly some risks, and you want to make sure that, for example, AI and data science in general is unbiased. You curate the data that you're feeding to these models, because that really influences their behaviors, right? So you got to make sure that the inputs you give them should be representative of the outputs you expect from them.
And is there some work going on in mitigating the bias? For instance, I was reading a recent research paper. Basically, the element of bias comes from the data on which it is trained. And since it's real world data, there's a lot of bias with those AIs. So this makes me wonder about the question, will an AI ever replace a human? What's your opinion on that? What do you feel?
I mean, it already has, right? Computers have replaced humans in certain roles. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, because you will have those replacements at least I replace the tasks of my day-to-day that I don't enjoy as much with AI, right? I don't replace the most enjoyable parts. Fully replacing, I think, in the past, it happened more with very repetitive work, right? Now with LLMs, obviously, there's also more creative work that can be replaced with AI. But I do think, so in the end, I do think there will be things that AI can fully replace a human, but not in what makes a human, but just in a certain job. Like if there is a very repetitive job, like a factory worker back in the days, right? Like today, a lot of these steps can be done by robots. And I think something similar will happen for a lot of knowledge work that right now, or until recently, we thought would be hard to automate. And now with AI, it might actually be a lot easier to automate.
I think from my experience, what I think is that, some of the tasks that you normally do in a day are very redundant. And I think using an AI to optimize your technical and productive work time, I think it's a massive thing that allows you to accomplish a lot more, which you could not have done.
How do you use it? Just out of curiosity.
I mean, for instance, depending on the problem, for instance, if I'm trying to solve a problem which is outside my coursework, I'll use the help of AI to sort of brainstorm different ideas and challenges and sort of think about projects. For instance, if I'm doing a project which is very different, I may use the help of AI to brainstorm some of the ideas. And if we're working with a large data set, which has a lot of manual work, I may end up using an AI help to sort of speed run through all those basic tasks that I know how to do, but I don't want to do them.
Yeah, for sure. I totally agree with that.
Yeah, I think that. Okay. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining with us. Thank you, Jannik, for being here with us. It's a pleasure to have you. It's a privilege to be sitting beside you and learn from your experiences. And stay tuned, guys, for more episodes in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Shuman, for having me.
Thank you for coming here, Jannik. It's a pleasure to be with you.